Good morning, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to beautiful yet smoky Banff. Elise, I won't tell anyone that your work status is busy. It's so lovely to have you here. Hi, Marlene. Nice to see you. It's been a while. And hi, Diane, Anna Marie. So, see quite a few people signing on. I'm thrilled to have you. Hi, Judy. Hey, hugs to you. Sorry, I only get so much of a feed here, but I'm thrilled to have you all here this morning. It's You'll hear my voice will be a little raspy. Hi, Carol. I was up as early as I always get up, and I looked outside and I thought, yeah, the smoke has settled enough that I'll ride my bike down here and have a little visit with all of you. And then I will. I've got quite a few work calls today, so I will go back inside downstairs in my house where we have HEPA filters going full time. So, I talked to my mom in Calgary yesterday, and she hadn't been out all day. So Calgary's air, it was an amazing thing. We will get into a lovely tour here this morning, but I signed on, a couple of minutes early. But I was looking at the news yesterday, and what it showed is that we had almost no smoke. Of course, I was out on Monday here in just fabulous clear but too warm weather, but it was just gorgeous. And then on Tuesday night, hey man, Tuesday night it was about 2 a.m. I guess the wind shifted and blew down to Calgary, and so it was so thick in Calgary. It's Terry. Um, it was so thick in Calgary that it literally was a health warning. We didn't get to an extreme warning, but for what it's worth, I do have a mild head, um, and I just find whenever I'm in these smoky conditions, I get this kind of dry. Sorry, bike gloves on because I fell off my bike last week, so I cut my hand a little bit, but I have my bike gloves on. Um, but all that said, I would like to welcome you all to the Bow Falls. Now, many of you have been here before. I actually have to be a little careful. Do you know what I just noticed right in front of me? I just, sorry, this is my fault. It is not. Look who's sitting right there. She may well have some eggs with her. And so I didn't mean at all to get that close to you, you beautiful, beautiful goose. So there is, of course, the Canadian Air Force right there. But I think she's sitting there. I think she probably, I expect because she's sitting, might have some babies down there. And then there's a magpie hanging around. So we're over at the important junction where the Spray River, coming out of Kananaskis country, flows into the Bow River. Now the Bow, and I will absolutely come the middle of summer do another tour down here when we have the deep turquoise colors. It's not deep in turquoise at the moment, and that is because sorry, I'm just seeing so many different birds flying around. And that is because this is snow melt that's happening, going on through here. But many of you on different times have walked out onto the rocks with me way out through here to the main channel that runs all winter. Now that is almost full flow. You can see the other day it was clearly higher because you can see the staining on the side of the rock. I'll wander over there. But the aspen trees are already coming out in leaves much faster than normal. And this is the one I always love to show people when I'm here. Do you see that just fantastic root system? This tree would not survive if it were saltwater, obviously, or if this water stayed up for any long period of time. But it's usually about 2 weeks. The water can come right up over here. So we're not getting into a flooding situation this year. And that's, I suppose it's good in one sense, but it's mostly because, of course, we don't have the snowpack and it's melted so early. 2013, I was talking about this the other day, is when we had the big floods in the province of Alberta. And that is because uh, the snowpack was still there in mid-June, and then we had more rain in one night than we'd have in over a month, and that brought the snowpack down. Well, there's the silhouette way in the distance of Mount Norquay, if you can make it out. Don't worry, I'll wander around for better views in each direction. But it's a big flow. Now, trying to give you the stats on the volume flow over the Bow Falls is really rather pointless, to be honest. And that is because it changes virtually on a daily basis. So these falls, you can see a tiny bit of rock there. When they're in full kind of flood mode, usually more in early June, you don't see any rocks at all. Nobody ever kayaks down this river because the shale in there, you see the formation? You've got this, that's the same mountain chain right there that's going up, but it's been cut through by the river. So there's only about a 14 or 16 meter elevation gain, but the falls carry on for 3/4 of a kilometer. And so that, of course, created a huge issue when the trains were arriving here in 1883, because right across the Canadian prairies, they found Calgary. Well, Calgary's found in 1875, but 1883, the trains arrived there. They chug out from Calgary, so to speak, and they whack into the mountains here, and they couldn't follow the river anymore. So that's why the mountain in the back there is known as Tunnel Mountain, because William Cornelius Van Horn, who was in charge of the construction, told Roger Douglas not to bother wasting a year putting a tunnel through that mountain and to find another place to move the train. So the trains moved around a little further north, and that's why the town of Banff is just a couple of kilometers from here. But of course, we're down below the famous Banff Springs Hotel, which normally in the winter months I walk straight out there and I turn around and show you the Banff Springs up on the hill behind me. But as I don't have my aqua feet on, I won't be doing that. But let's just have a little curve round. Let's wander up here. We've got the junction of the rivers, and even though it's both smoky and misty. Now, I will say, in all fairness, the smoke does add just a certain beauty to the Takara. And I know Terry's here. Takara is the Iroquois word for water, light glistening on water. But that is the smoke as it settles in, gives us this feel. You know, I so often talk about all my tours down around here in Banff about the fact that our one potential natural disaster is forest fire. And these forests are big and old. And so when we get this kind of weather, it always worries us a little bit. But this is the meeting of the two rivers. So obviously the Bow River down here, and I thought we would hang around down here for a good 20 minutes or so, and then maybe ride up and have a look at the light from the bridge, if that sounds nice. But this is coming off the Bow Glacier, the Wafta ice field. But of course, it's catching all that snow melt. Literally, the melt that's coming off of Lake Louise, for example, is coming down and off the Pipestone, which is the ski area. All of that's coming down through here. Whereas this much smaller, but always deliciously clear river over here is famously not glacial fed because there's no glacial ice up there in Kananaskis country. Look at the natural formations. This is just erosion happening all the time through here. Joanna, I'm sorry you're not feeling well. Well, I've been feeling, I have to admit, just fantastic. You know, I came home Monday, I biked for over 4 hours with my buddy, tons of exercise. I had a great sleep. I'm going through one of my cycles that I do where I vegetarian and light food and no alcohol. You know, these sort of detoxy things. I feel great. But now the smoke, I woke up at 4 a.m. with a sinus headache. I'm super allergic to this smoke. And it's not just me. When you hear about it, look at that light just reflects. Isn't that gorgeous? There's one of the rafting companies down here. What happens with forest fire smoke is I guess the particles are so small. This is why they don't encourage a lot of exercise, because if you breathe deeply, you're pulling them right down deep into your lungs. You can see a little stone structure there. That was once upon a time the bridge over this river. I am in the market for new sandals, and once I have them, I will walk with you over this river as I have done in the past. But you'll see it just gets clearer and clearer. When we look down the valley in the distance, we are looking down south. LR, they absolutely do find fossils. That is a great question. So all of these mountains are limestone. They're all pushed up out of the ground as sedimentary rock. It's about between 400 and 550 million years old. So an hour from here is Calgary, an hour and a half, let's say, and then an hour and a half northeast of Calgary is Drumheller. Now that is one of the 3 top dinosaur sites on planet Earth. Much of us that we see around here, including this kind of rock that you see right there where we're standing, that is old coral reef. That's right, Martin. So that is old coral reef there. And so we find fossils, and I've even shown them to you. Now, I would never remove the fossils from the park, but I found one in a scree field at the base of Cascade Mountain last year sometime. So we find them all the time. Generally speaking, you find fossils higher up. In fact, there's Sulphur Mountain up there. Now, I've done lots of tours up there. A gondola goes up, but I tend to hike up. My plan today, except for it's too smoky, is I was going to ride my bike all the way up the back because there's an access road, but you really have to have the kind of bike that I have to do that. But I see fossils on top of that. Now, both plant life Um, and that's lovely, Terry. Plant life, and then of course the shell life. And then as we get into Yoho Park, you get into some of the biggest fossil beds, and actually down in Kootenay Park as well. There's some fabulous fossil beds, and that's all built around the Burgess Shale. Now Burgess was just not just, I'm sure he was a hardworking person, was a Canadian bureaucrat, but it was Dr. Walcott about 1911 who started to really describe the fossils. And here in the Canadian Rockies, we have the fossil history of evolution on our planet. So the fossil question's a really big one. Hey, okay, Robert. So Robert had a birthday yesterday. Look at this light right there, just reflecting on the water with magnificent Rundle Mountain in the back. So, and the point that Robert is saying, okay, that is hello in the Blackfoot language. And that gives me pause to acknowledge that we are on Treaty 7 territory here. Blackfoot First Nation, Stoney Nakoda, Tsuut'ina, Métis, Treaty 3. And there are acknowledgements around town. So that is, and I really love the fact that, well, particularly, Robert, you're making that effort to say Oki. I will be down on Blackfoot country several times this year. I can't wait. Look at the light up there. I mean, it is dramatic, but it is smoky. There's your longest massif in this part of the Rockies down there, but 16 and a half kilometers long. And it is always a tough one because the light is sort of magical. Now, it's meant to be blowing out hopefully later in the day. And I sure hope it is because I am going golfing with my very good friend Gavin tomorrow. By the way, the elk are busy, busy, busy growing their antlers at the moment as they're leading up towards the rutting season. But I just want to come out the bridge, and then I'm going to curve back towards the falls, partly because my bike is there and it's not locked up. But this is the golf course down here. Just one more comment about our Indigenous First Nations friends of the area. The other side of this particular hole, and I don't get reception there, there's not a great deal to actually see, but there is archaeological evidence of pit houses. So there were two types of housing historically in the region, teepees as you would imagine them, and pit houses where they dug into the ground. This is used right through the west of what is now Canada, Alberta, British Columbia. And they would dig down below the line of permafrost, the way you have a basement today. Fabulous form of survival. And why did they build them particularly in the area over there? Well, you have the snow melt that comes down off the back of Mount Rundle here, and then it goes so deep into the mantle that it comes up and pops out of Sulphur Mountain, hence the sulphur smell. And you have these natural hot springs, 9 of them. Diane, rut is generally speaking about the third week of September. So we're a long way off. But what's happening with the animals now is they've lost their last year's antlers and they're trying desperately to grow the new ones. When I say desperately, it means that they're eating like mad. They will grow up to a centimeter a day. It's amazing to think. And they get that velvet on them. Now, the velvet is beautiful, but that's actually capillaries. And they go through this very ugly little period where it starts to peel off. All these young trees here are wrapped around so the beavers don't come to eat them. Now, ready for the crown jewel of the Canadian tourism industry. Diane, unless it starts early, that's a good point. But you'll see all the big boys when you're here. When Diane is here in earlier September, they will have full racks on them, but they won't be so dangerous. So you can go up and pet them, ride them if you like. No, you can't. But that hotel up there, roughly 850 rooms. In front of us is the Waldhauser Stube, a Swiss restaurant. Last year, we had Finn's birthday dinner there. Now it was his 16th birthday. Do you know his steak cost $75? Um, it amazes me too, Martin. But the Grand Hotel up there, I will, I'll probably get permission to go in and we'll do a YouTube video there one day. I mean, I have done tours inside, but it'd be more something that's going to be on screen. Again, one of my neighbors is the hotel manager and a super nice guy. Just they're getting into ramped up in the busy season. I'll probably do that in the winter. This is something that I just find so magical. Look how clear that water is there. So you get a sense that if we went up and over Sulphur Mountain and down into Sundance at the back, Sundance Canyon, I love that area. That has very little smoke, and I guess Lake Louise has very little at the moment. But as you look south, there you're looking down into Kananaskis country. Normally, exactly, Joanne, I'll come back to that. Normally, you see the end of Sulphur Mountain, and then you see the Goat Range, but the smoke is making that, and that's because you're looking south and a little bit east, and that's of course where you're getting so much of the smoke blowing around. So this water here is snow melt. Keep in mind that these mountains are incredibly porous, and you can see it in the formation of this rock. Like there's so much more. Like that's how trees can stick out the side. There's so much more liquid water flowing around inside all of this. But there's no glaciers down in Kananaskis country down that way anymore. So there's no glaciers means that this flow is snow melt, clearer water, and it's not that glacial melt. If my friend, someone has said hi to Harriet, so if my friend Harriet is here, my friend Harriet is in Uganda, and she's been doing a series of just brilliant tours the last little while in all sorts of neat places. So Harriet, it's lovely to have you here. You can see that it is very much spring here. It's only about 6 or 7 degrees Celsius right now, but yesterday we got up to 22, but the day before without the smoke was 27. We actually, we wanted to stay a bit cooler for all the obvious reasons because it dampens any fire risk down here. Now the main fires, if you do have a look at them, the main fires are east and north of Edmonton in the province, and it's been sending smoke all the way to like New York, but then the wind shifted and it blew down here. So we have had smoke in the past all the way from the territories. And let me repeat the fact that fires are normal, right? Fires are part of our ecosystem. The difference is in the month of May, we shouldn't be getting to 30 degrees Celsius or about 85, 86 Fahrenheit. Like we're just, for our altitude and latitude, that should just not be happening. So that's where things are changing. Good question, Lisa. Yes, I mean, our water, your body would filter it out. So I have reached into that spray river before and drunk the water straight out of it. I'm not afraid to drink this water because it's moving so quickly. It's still water, and it's just animal waste that can, creates a bacteria called Giardia, beaver fever, as we call it. That's right, Cindy. Hi, Cindy, by the way. Yeah, I heard that I actually had a message. I have a call with Saginaw Valley University today when I get home, but I just wanted to come down here and share all of this with everyone. The tour groups have already started arriving, but yeah, I wouldn't be afraid of the water, and not for this. And this is just fine particle ash. Your system would just move this stuff through. Now that said, as I say, I've been, eating lightly, sleeping as much as I possibly can, and I still woke up with a bit of a sinus headache at about 4:30 a.m. So then I stayed in bed till nearly 6, which is a real late sleep in for me. So if we went down on the river here, have a look at this. So you would float down up around a bend, and you go along the Fairholme Range, past the town of Canmore, and then out to a dam. So there's a dam on the river called CB, and that's TransAlta Utilities. And then it's nice to be home, it's true. And then down through Calgary, then it meets up with the Oldman River, the Red Deer, eventually the Saskatchewan, and flows into Lake Winnipeg. And of course, many of you joined us in Winnipeg just a few days ago. And then out the Nelson River, eventually into the Hudson's Bay. That's also draining the Red River. So a huge water system. I just keep coming back to that light up on Mount Rundle. It is pretty remarkable up there. So lots of people out getting their photos. People visiting us from, I don't know, people of Asian heritage, whether they're Canadians or from abroad, I'm not sure. I think we'll start to see Chinese tourism come back. Yeah, I heard it was cold down East Leon. Um, and of course, we get lots of tourism from Korea and Taiwan. Um, Koreans love coming here specifically. Koreans and Albertans get along because we're both a hiking culture and a beef culture. So there's just kind of a natural synthesis. Now, my bike cannot go up the stairs, but I can go out and around. But I just want to give you a little bit of time just with the falls right there. So they're not massive, but it is amazing how far they go on for. And then they lead us up into town. Yeah, Robert, it's 4 degrees there in Ottawa. I heard it was cool in the east. It's probably good for the ecosystem. I was looking yesterday at the rain pattern. So we did have one rain cell just north of us yesterday. We got like 2 drops here. And then there were some cells over in Assiniboine Park and the Kootenays, which is good news. But there's basically no rain in the north, but there's quite a bit of rain all the way down to Arizona, according to the map, right down through Montana. And that's that is good news, but it's probably the heat of the fires in the north of Alberta that's pushing that rain further south. What we need is a great big um, belt of rain. I mean, we desperately need a huge belt of rain to come through up in the north, or snow would be even better. Just to the earlier question, you get into this shale rock through here. If you spent long enough looking at this, you will find fossils in it as well. And the early construction workers talked about these stone bugs they would see. So, what do you think? Shall we go and ride up above the Bow Falls, ladies and gentlemen? I think it's a fun thing to do. I think, by the way, I will maybe put up a little evening outing tonight for those of you who are awake. Um, because it's Wednesday. Say tomorrow, I might be taking my kid into town. I didn't see my mom on Mother's Day, and then my boy might stay with her for a couple of nights. I'd stay one, um, and we would. And he wants to go to synagogue on Friday. Look at these lovely little. They're either coots or grebes. Do you see these gorgeous little ducks here? I still haven't seen the mergansers this year, but then I haven't been in the right places. Look at you, gorgeous little ducks. Aren't they lovely to see? Um, So yeah, maybe we'll put up an evening tour tonight. Might be fun because the air is meant to clear out a little bit. Um, in fact, I could maybe try and make it late enough that it could catch morning elsewhere. Let's see, bit of a sunset little ride. But let's go, and we're going to take the bike out. So by the way, if you haven't met my bike before, here it is. Um, if you want to say anything mean about my bike, you can leave now. Yeah. Well, early enough or late enough. So we'll just turn the power on. So I'm going to move away from all these people because I don't want to get in the way of them either. And we'll have a look at this, and we'll go up top. The light was smorning when I was riding down, but as long as it starts to clear up, I'll let you know. Sorry, you'll be a little bouncy for a second. There we go. As I come out here, and we'll go take everyone for the ride. Now, there's one section that I go up. I'd love to take you around by the golf course, but I've tested it so much that it really loses its reception. So back way up to the Bald House. Yeah, there's one section where our reception is down. It's already bouncing a little bit through here. It does happen to the state of the road, right? We have two seasons in this country, winter and construction. And it probably sounds a little windy, but I'm already riding. Can you believe that I am riding at 30 kilometers an hour? So there's service to go up the back of the Banff Springs or out to the golf course. See you. Oh, there we are. It's so funny there. I know that we cut out for a moment there. It's so funny because sometimes it doesn't. But I was zipping along as fast as I can. Try not to push my lungs too hard. Just in and out for a moment here, everyone. But then, yeah, I think we're back. Now, if I found a way to actually get this camera set up properly, I think I'll try it with the 360. I'll attach it to my bike helmet and actually take you out mountain biking. Doesn't that sound like fun? Sounds like great fun to me. So this is more or less where the falls start. So I'm just going to come and drop my bike off here for a second. So our reception is back. Did you see that's fun if you saw. It's, when I have conversations about these bikes, this bike of mine is really, really made for this environment, right? It's a real, it's the perfect bike for Banff, and it's probably not the perfect bike. Well, climbing, yeah, I'd have to wear a helmet to do that. No, I do sometimes. Yeah, the climbing ones. I did watch this morning. I did watch a guy skiing some cool wires, which I watched. He has a 360 camera on. You're very welcome, Joanne. It's my pleasure. But have a look. This is just the start of the Bow Falls up here. So the story is a bit bigger, but there's the road up above, which I've walked down many times with you. And you can just see where the water is just picking up speed now on the falls. And this is, well, for this year, will probably be the highest water we get unless we suddenly get a week of rain. And you never know. Boy, it'd be good news if we did. But it really picks up some distinct volume through here. I do want to. This family. I I always try and give out the secrets, at the right optimum times when I cannot be quoted, which is fun. Um, I just like to obviously mention that there's always a link. I want to thank those of you who have been so generous to contribute as often, frequently as you do. It's much appreciated. Um, by the way, it's been a while now that I've actually achieved the number of hours on YouTube to be monetized, but I haven't really done much with it yet because I just want to learn a bit more about it and what it means. The trees are beautiful, but they're getting, a lot of these trees are getting old. But there's the start of the falls, and the reason I mention that is that's the risk of fire. But isn't it, for when you come from places that aren't rocky mountain place like this, isn't it remarkable how they are just perched out on the side of the cliffs? Now, when I say the falls start here, this is where they lean right down into the accelerating area. Now, when I look back now, oh, there's a couple of ducks just went zooming by. There's that pedestrian bridge, and then we have the road bridge. And the road bridge is really the point that it goes from being a calm river to suddenly something that moves very quickly. And this is not, terribly fast or anything. It's the fact, isn't it, Lori? Isn't it gorgeous? It's just the fact that there's so much steep, sharp rock here. So most of our valleys through here, as everyone knows, were carved into the shapes that they are today because of glaciation. This is one of the few, very distinct river cuts down through here. Robert, it's running very quickly. And again, this is more what I would consider a June flow rather than a mid-May. I mean, we really are just mid-May. Now, and I know, Robert, you particularly love Cascade Mountain. Well, you might be able to get the silhouette of it right out there. There's Cascade. All right, so that's where the smoke has just moved into our valleys. This is why, yesterday, hi, Ann. Yesterday when it was so clear, that's why I put this up in the afternoon, and then I took it down because it wasn't safe to go out. I was feeling it immediately in my chest, but it was calm enough this morning. There are bears, absolutely alarm, absolutely 100%. There are bears near and right down here. There's my bear spray. This time of year when I'm out on the bike, I have bear spray with me all the time. And generally speaking, you're going to see black bears down here. Down one of the trails that I go on mountain biking, I come to a big meadow, and I still am amazed that I haven't found a bear there but the flowers are just popping out. I'm traveling on Tuesday over to Europe. I wish if I had a day or two more, I'd love to drive down into Kootenay again, down towards Radium, because that's really where that's where I see the most bears, and that's down along the Kootenay River. And it's pretty neat. So why don't we do, in the last few minutes, why don't we take a little cruise up the road here, everyone, and go over the bridge. And then the honest truth is I will probably just go home, and as much as I want to be out biking, say I've got, right here is about 9 o'clock in the morning local time. I have a Zoom call at 10. I have a call at 10:30. I have another one at 11. And so, and some of these calls I could have done outside, but I just don't want to breathe the air too long. There's some burls on the side of the trees, those natural mounds that form because of the freeze and thaw. So it's, yeah, anything but the car, that's true. So, but, I do this riding here. Okay, there we are, just doing 22 kilometers with very little effort. I don't have a throttle on this bike, right? You need to have, here's our sculpture, by the way, to the waves in the river. These are only e-bikes, so it's only an aid. And that's important, right? So that's why I can go on all the trails. and any motor support stops at 32 kilometers an hour, and that's Canadian law. Folks go there. So now, as we come up onto this bridge, here you're looking up. Usually that's the view of all views because that's the view up to Cascade along Muskrat Street. But yeah, the smoke is getting denser already. But right down on the other bridge, the other side of that bridge, the water is calm as can be, and then it starts to speed up, which then becomes, of course, the Bow Falls themselves, right down here. And that's where we were. Well, it's such a treat to have everyone here. Thank you so much. Um, Anytime you feel the desire just to share any one of our YouTube videos, please do to share them on your social media. Even the shorter ones, particularly, in fact, the shorter ones, like the beaver one, because um, apparently that helps for the algorithms. That's what I'm still learning about. I pedal. Oh yes, Joanne, I have to pedal. See, that's the motor down there, little motor right there. And if I don't pedal, there's no assist. So that's how the bike works. So it's still a bicycle. And then I plug it in, it charges. No, Elise, thank you for asking. The fires are not close to Banff at the moment, and it's cool now because of the smoke. So I don't think we're at any real risk of fire. They've got us as a high, not extreme. And that's because the whole province is on a fire ban at the moment. So no, they're much, much further north. You're welcome, Anna Marie. What's happening in the north of the province, and the real tragedy of it all, is that there's ancient bog there, and the bog is melting. Well, it's so dry that the fire is actually going into the ground. And so that is, that's the other big issue that's happening. So all that noted, ladies and gentlemen, thank you for hanging out with me once again. I want to get my kid on another one of these days. Maybe I could talk Finn into doing a Sunday morning breakfast or something. I think that would be a fun idea. Hi, Lori. Um, well, it's lovely you saw everything. So I want to say peace and love to all of you. Thank you for coming and hanging out. And I just gave you one last view of this very peculiar light and reflection that we get here. Um, Now, just as a final note, as always, when this thing turns off, it closes off really, really quickly. And so I do apologize for that. But I did want to tell you a little secret about this incredible mountain maiden who apparently lives up the top of Mount Rundle. Now, I once saw her when I was climbing, but when I saw her, it was the most peculiar thing.